I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to start off with a disclaimer. I'm going to be a bit thought-provoking. I'm going to be a bit physical. Perhaps going to be a little bit challenging, but most of all, we're going to have some fun. So, are you up for that? The presentation today was around Jax. Jax, for me, is a non-gender specific term. You can be John or you can be Jacqueline, it doesn't really matter. But we can all be Jax. So put whatever gender position you want on that, and I think we'll be okay today. Look, I'm really pleased to be here. Alan invited me along to have a few words around what we do, or what I do in Western Australia. Don't know if you've heard much about Western Australia. It's a kind of principality that lives on the west side of the continent. You probably don't think about it very often. We don't have any knights and dames there, just so that's okay for you guys. We have a few cowboys though. But my name's Phil Kemp, and I come from an organisation called Business Foundations, and we help people start small businesses and help entrepreneurs achieve their goals. And what's really interesting about the first time I met Alan is that I met him in jail, which you might think, well, that's a pretty odd place to meet somebody like Alan Ryan. But jails are full of people who are actually very entrepreneurial. I don't know if you realise that. There's been some great studies around entrepreneurship and people that are in jail, and they're actually very entrepreneurial. They're about one standard deviation to the right, of the mean of the average Australian. They just don't operate within the rules of law, but they're very entrepreneurial, and our organisation has been in and working from the Fremantle prison, and many of you have been to Western Australia, you might have visited the Fremantle prison. It's WA's most visited tourism site of all things to see in Perth. And so we operate from the jail, and we've been there now for 20 odd years, helping people start, run, operate, grow and achieve success in small business. Anyway, so this morning when I woke up at about 4 a.m. my time, I really felt like dancing. So I had this little tune run through my head, and anyway, I thought I'd dance. This is your cue, Paul. You might want to join me. What's wrong with you? You didn't want to dance? Did you not want to help me dance today? Stand up. What I thought we might do is I might help you dance this morning, because I don't know about you, but I'm often in my head, I've got a tune and I want to dance, so I thought I might help you today. We might do it in a different way. We might do it like this. There we go. Let's dance. Go to space with the air, like I don't care. Come on now. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. How was that? What was different? It was dark. Nobody could see you. What were you afraid of before? What were you afraid of? Looking silly in front of your colleagues and friends. Somebody might judge you that, I'm an idiot when I dance. I'm an idiot when I dance. I can't dance at all. I dance like Peter Garrett. But I don't give a damn. I don't really care if you realise I can't dance. It's not going to affect my day. That was just a really easy example of the fear that we have. Fear internally inside us that we might look silly, we might be foolish, people might judge us. People might think, we're not very good at what we're doing, or we don't know what we're doing at the time. In my world, entrepreneurs dance in the daylight. They do it in the raw. Everybody can see them. They're entrepreneurial in the full daylight of their customers, of their suppliers, of their own staff. They're learning as they're doing, and they don't necessarily have a plan. I live in that world of people that only have 2 employees, or themselves and perhaps their wife or partner. or husband, or certainly in companies that have fewer than 20 employees. And in that world, entrepreneurship is raw and it's real, and innovation is in the DNA, as they say. And the title of my speech was Being Nimble, Quick and Innovate, and jumping over candlesticks. And entrepreneurs jump over candlesticks all the time. And being nimble and quick is just part of doing business. Because you can imagine today we might do a bit of myth busting as well. You've probably all heard the statistic, 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. Have we heard that one before? Yeah, it's wrong. It's not true. A lot of people will start a business and then they'll change. They'll start, do some early work, grow the business a little bit, and then they'll see another opportunity or go back into paid employment. I don't think that's a failure. That's been a huge learning exercise. So we use this word failure again, I think, because of this fear we have, fear inside us of failing, and that it's a negative. But it's not. It's a real positive. It's a real learning experience, and I think we should embrace that. So being nimble and quick as an entrepreneur is just what you do. And small business are not smaller versions of big business. I hear that myth all the time as well. I hear it from politicians regularly, that small business are just, corporate's just much tinier. And that's not the case at all. It's all about culture. It's all about how they do what they do every day. I was just saying to Helen, who spoke earlier, as the owner of a small business, and I've had a few over my time, I take out the rubbish. There's nobody that does it for me. I don't have a lovely fairy cleaner that comes along at the end of the day and cleans up my office. It's me. I've scrubbed the toilets in my office. Nobody else to do it but me. I don't have a problem with that. And that intimacy, that closeness with your customers or your staff, that's just what happens within that small business. It's inherently innovative. It has to be. When you're the owner of the business and you've put everything on the line to make that work, you will do everything to see it succeed. Being nimble and quick also means being able to see in the marketplace where the opportunities lie. And at any point, that can change. And so they have to quickly shift perspective. The buzz phrase now we use is pivot. They pivot the strategy and off they go. And they pursue the opportunity as fast as they can in that direction and then change again if they see an opportunity somewhere else. Perhaps they're not so much goats on a mountain, but from my point of view, they're more like gazelles. They're jumping, they're flighty, they're seeing opportunities, they're staying ahead of the prey, and they're going for gold at every moment. Entrepreneurship is tough. Small businesses are really, a difficult way of making a dollar. And that culture inside that business is all about, that ability to see or work with a small team of people, work with, a group of people that are committed to running and achieving the goals of that business. I don't know if you've had that opportunity in your working careers to work with a small group of people and just do everything you can to achieve results. Because the owner of the business, that closeness to the staff, in my businesses that I've run, I know everything about the staff. I know their kids' names, I know where they're going to school, I know how big the mortgage is that I'm helping pay with the business income that I'm generating. That's a real hard lesson for an entrepreneur to have to take on, to have that responsibility for those people as well as your own, responsibilities and family and mortgage. That intimacy, that closeness, that rapport with your staff is everything in that small business, in that entrepreneurial business. And that reliance on those people to achieve results is everything the owner needs to, go on and forward and pursue those opportunities in the marketplace. The entrepreneurial mindset also means that because it's a small team of people, the entrepreneur is very close to the customer. You know, I think I would struggle to understand in your world how often the CEO gets down to the shop floor and actually talks to a real customer. I don't know if that happens very often. Does it happen very often in your companies? I suspect not. I was having a conversation with NAB the other day, not as a customer, but with some of their small business team. And I said, you know, when was the last time the CEO of NAB actually went to a branch and actually served across the teller, I suppose, across the counter? And they went, well, never. In an entrepreneurial small business, that happens every day. You know, the entrepreneur is with the customer all the time because there isn't a sales team, there isn't a department that takes care of that for them. It's the owner. And that process, that conversation with the customer means that in the mind of the owner, the mind of the entrepreneur, they're really pushing, you know, what's that customer need, what do they want, what are their desires, what are their hopes, how can my business align with that, how do I drive, their custom to my business. And that's an iterative process. That happens time and time again. Every conversation, the owner of the business is learning something. They're learning all the time from that process. That's the inherent DNA of innovation. That's that inherent innovative process or approach within that entrepreneurial startup business. That intimacy with the customer is gold, is valuable, and can't be replaced with anything else that I can think of. There's lots of fancy things that are going on in the startup world. You might hear, all sorts of things like co-working spaces and collaboration and tech startups and all the rage with an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy and apps and all the rest. And I think there's a real rise of entrepreneurship, a real rise of people thinking, let's take that chance. And technology's allowed us to do that. It's to really lower or drive down the costs of starting a business, seeing an opportunity in the marketplace, grabbing that opportunity and running with it. And I think that's been one of the great changes that I've seen in the last 10 years, in particular around startup and entrepreneurship, is the ability to, for very low dollars, low cost, be able to start something new and go for it. The best entrepreneurs that I work with have that vision very clearly in their heads. They really see the goal. They can see where their business is going, and they do everything they can to achieve that. That type of vision on the hill stuff, I think that's where that energy, that drive, that passion comes from. And what we do as an organisation is we go with them on the journey a bit. We might help them a little bit. So some of the messages for me, I believe, out of the entrepreneurial startup world, perhaps some take-homes for you guys, is get that intimacy with your customer. Try and spin out, perhaps from your corporate structures. Overcome that internal fear. Overcome that hesitancy that you just expressed, you just showed me then. And we all have it as humans. But that hesitancy to put yourself forward, bring yourself out. Entrepreneurs overcome that every day, and they achieve fantastic results. I can understand in your world that the fear of that embarrassment, corporate or career embarrassment, I'm not going to achieve my sales target, I'm not going to get the corner office, I'm not going to have the car park under the building. I can understand that fear. But if you overcome that, you'll achieve much more than within the structures that you're within. And I think that's one of the great lessons out of entrepreneurship, is entrepreneurs step outside of the day-to-day. They go outside of what's normal. They see the opportunity, they go with it with everything they've got, and they learn all the time, they iterate all the time. And that's the innovative process for them. So I think I'm getting the wind up, so thanks very much. It's part of the game. So for some, it will lower their risk profile. So here's another myth busting. Are entrepreneurs risk takers? Show of hands, yes or no? Yes, are they risk takers? Yeah, they're really not. It's another myth busted. The entrepreneurs take calculated risks. So from their perspective, it's all about perspectives, entrepreneurship. From my perspective, sitting in a corporate tower on George Street in Sydney, hugely risky. From their point of view, when they've got nothing to lose, not risky at all. And I think that's the perspective thing. That's that overcoming that internal fear that we all have. So crowdfunding for me is just another way. If that assists you to overcome your fear, then fantastic. But for a lot of people, it's not the right way to do it. Do you understand what we're talking about when we talk about crowdfunding equity for startups? Yeah, okay. Entrepreneurship in that startup phase, you're learning as you're going, you're iterating, you're building your customer base. It's all fresh and new and innovative, and product development just happens, just all the time because you're learning and listening from your customer at all points. So, yeah, that process is just always there. Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.